Hi there, I'm Aman and you're watching PTO classes. So, in the previous video we have done the phrases and before that we have done sentences. So this is the third part of your second chapter from English grammar, that is the sentences, phrases and clauses. So in this video we are going to discuss clauses and we are going to do the exercises also. In this video I am going to explain you how to do the exercises that are related to clauses and the exercises that are on the back of your book. So I hope that you have done the first three exercises in your book and you have noted down all the definitions. Now in this video we will see the clauses and the kinds of clauses. You will note down the definitions from the slides or you can note down from the book, and thereafter you will do the exercises in your book. So without wasting more time, let's start your clauses. So what are clauses? Clauses are group of words that contain their own subjects and verbs, but not the complete sentences are called clauses. So see the definition, see the difference that clauses has from phrases, that it is also the groups of words that contain their own subjects and verbs, whereas in the phrases you have seen that phrases are group of words that act as a part of a speech but cannot stand alone as sentences. But on the other hand, clauses can stand alone as sentences because they have their own verb and subject. They make sentence but not the complete sentences. They are a part of sentence and can be considered as a sentence but not the whole sentence. These are called clauses. So what is the condition for group of words to be called clauses? That it must have a subject. Subject is the word that about that the sentence is, and verbs are the action words. So these are called clauses. When searching for clauses in sentences, look for verbs and their subjects. So whenever you want to find that what is a clause in a sentence, look for a subject and its verb. You all must know what is the formation, what is the structure of a sentence. A sentence has subject plus verb plus object, okay, of normal sentence. So a clause may contain a subject and a predicate. You all must be aware with subject and predicate. Subject is the base of any sentence, about what the sentence is, and predicate is the rest of the sentence. Okay, so now there are two main types of clauses. First is the independent clause and the second is the dependent or subordinate clause. So what is an independent clause? See, it expresses a complete thought and can stand alone as a sentence. So I have told you that sentences are clauses are sentences but not complete sentences. So the independent clause act as a sentence and it expresses a complete thought. It can stand alone as a sentence. See the example, Shubham went to bed after he had his dinner. So in this sentence you have two clauses. See first part, Shubham went to bed. So here we have a subject, that is Shubham, and the predicate went to bed, in which we have the verb went. So Shubham the subject and the verb went. So subject and verb both are there. So it is a clause. Now see the next part, after he had his dinner. So here he, the subject, after he had his dinner. So had is the verb, after he had his dinner. So here also we have a subject and a verb. But see the difference in both the clauses of the sentence. See, Shubham went to bed. Here we have a subject and a verb, Shubham and went. And Shubham went to bed. If you write it alone, if you don't write the next part of the sentence, if you just write Shubham went to bed, it alone is expressing something. It alone is expressing a thought that Shubham went to bed. Now see the next part. After he had his dinner. See, after he had his dinner. If you will write it alone, a question may arise that what he did after he had his dinner, or what after he had his dinner. So here it is not completing any thought. It is depending upon the first part of the sentence to complete its thought. See, Shubham went to bed. Here it can alone be taken as a sentence because it is expressing a complete thought that Shubham सोने गया. Then see, after he had his dinner. So here उसके शुभम सोने गया खाना खाने के बाद. If you will write Shubham went to bed, Shubham सोने गया. So here it is completing a thought, but खाना खाने के बाद. So you can ask what after he had his dinner. खाना खाने के बाद क्या? So here it is the dependent clause because it is depending upon the first part that Shubham went to bed. Second, I have explained through the first example only. Dependent clause, which is also called the subordinate clause, it depends on other parts of the sentence to express a complete thought. See the example, Shubham went to bed. It is a independent clause because it is completing a thought. After he had his dinner, it is a clause because it has a verb he and had he the subject and had the verb, but it is depending upon the first part of the sentence, the first clause, which is the independent clause. So it is called the dependent clause because ये क्या है, ये अपने पहले पार्ट में निर्भर है. बिना अपने पहले पार्ट के ये अपनी तर्क को बिल्कुल समझा नहीं सकता है. देखिए, शुभम went to bed after he had his dinner. So Shubham went to bed is alone a complete thought. So it is a independent clause because it can alone stand as a sentence. But after he had his dinner needs to have the first part to make some sense. It is making some sense, but it cannot stand alone as a complete thought or a sentence. So it is a subordinate or dependent clause. Now see the kinds of clauses. So there are three kinds of clauses. Earlier we have studied two types of clauses, the independent and dependent. Now we are studying the kinds of these clauses. There are three kinds basically: noun clause, adverb clause and adjective clause. So we will study all three one by one. First, start with the noun clause. A noun clause is a group of words doing the work of a noun, sometimes as the subject of a sentence. You all know what is the subject? If you can replace the clause with it. See, it is a pronoun. If you can replace the subject or the noun, if you can replace the clause with it, then it is a noun clause. You have identified a noun clause if you are able to replace the clause with it. See example, Rohan kept the books on the table. So Rohan is a subject and kept is a verb. So subject plus verb plus the object, the books. So it is a clause. And why it is a independent noun clause? Because it is completing a thought. And why it is a noun clause? Because you can replace the clause with it. See, it, Rohan kept it on the table. So it is a noun clause. Rohan kept it on the table. So second example, Riya liked the dress hanging in the shop. Why it is dependent noun clause? The first one was independent noun clause because it has the subject and the verb and it was alone making some sense. It was alone a sentence and it can be replaced by it. Now second, Riya liked the dress hanging in the shop. So first of all, it is dependent clause. Why? Because the dress hanging in the shop, it is not making any sense on its own. It needs some other part of the sentence, not only clause, but it needs Riya and liked, one subject and verb, Riya liked. So it needs the first part of the sentence to make some meaning. So it is the dependent clause. And why it is a noun clause? Because you can replace it with it. See, Ria liked the dress hanging in the shop. You can replace the dress, you can replace the object with it. See, Ria liked it hanging in the shop. So in the shop is a phrase. See, here is a phrase also. In the shop, we are using the preposition, the prepositional phrase in the shop. So here the clause, the dress hanging in the shop, is dependent noun clause because it is depending upon the first part of the sentence, and it is noun clause because it can be replaced by it. Ria liked it hanging in the shop. So it is a noun clause and it is working as a noun because the dress is a thing. So it can be replaced by it. Now see the adverb clause. An adverb clause is a group of words which acts as an adverb and indicates the time, manner or degree of an action. So the clause which does the work of an adverb, I am sure you all know what are adverbs. So the clause which are doing the work of an adverb is called the adverb clause, which indicates the time, manner of or degree of an action, the verb, the action, that how it is happening or at which time it happened or what is the degree of the action. Adverb clauses often begin with subordinating conjunction. It is a very important point. You have to keep in mind that it always, it often, but most of the time it begins with a subordinating conjunction. And what are subordinating conjunctions? I will tell you the example that the conjunctions like wherever, although, often, because, since, when, whenever, like this, after, if, until, unless, once, all the words which are the subordinating conjunctions are used before the adverb clause. So wherever the words like once, before, after, since, until, unless, whether, although, wherever, because, so all these wherever we are using them, then it is before the clause, then it is the adverb clause because it tells us about the degree of the action. See the example, he bought the house once he saw the rooftop greenhouse. So the action is the adverb defines an action. So here see, he bought the house. The act of buying the house is defined, is described further by its quality that it was the rooftop greenhouse. Once he saw the rooftop greenhouse, he bought the house. So the action of buying the house is further defined by that it was the rooftop greenhouse. Once he saw the rooftop greenhouse, he bought the house. And here the conjunction once is used, so it is the adverb clause. Wherever these conjunctions are there, you will always call it the adverb clause. And wherever it is working as an adverb, here it is not the noun because it is not, it can't be replaced with it because the object, see here we don't have the object. Here we are defining the house, we are defining our action by the condition, that what was the condition, because of that we bought the house. So here it is the adverb and we have used the subordinating conjunction once, so it will always be the adverb. More examples you can see, I will explain you in the exercises. Now come to the last, the adjective clause. An adjective clause is a group of words which used to describe a noun. It is called a relative clause also. It is called a relative clause. Example, the man who is wearing a long coat is my father. So adjective clause, wherever the clause is doing the work of an adjective, is an adjective clause. See here we have the subject and the verb. who is wearing a long coat. So here who is the subject and wearing is the verb. So here it is the adjective clause because it is doing the work of an adjective. See, the man is a noun, and who is wearing a long coat is an adjective because it is defining the man, that which man, the man who is wearing a long coat. So wherever we use the pronouns like who, whom, whose, that, or which, or wherever a relative adverb when, where, or why is used, it will always be an adjective clause. So here we are defining the man, that who the man who is wearing a long coat is my father. So it is an adjective clause. See, and what is the difference between adjective and relative clause? I will tell you. See the examples. An adjective clause has the following features. See, first, it contains a subject and predicate of its own. So it will contain a subject and a predicate. Predicate, the rest part of the sentence. Subject, about what the sentence is. And second, it begins with a relative pronoun. So it will always begin with a relative pronoun. See, for example, who, whom, whose, that, or which, or relative adverb when, where, or why. So wherever we are using the words who, whom, whose, that, or which, or a relative adverb that is when, where, or why, it will always be an adjective clause. So you have to keep in mind second point, that what is the condition for an adjective clause, that it will use any pronoun like who, whom, whose, relative pronoun, or relative adverb when, where, or why, time, degree, and action, time, degree, and manner. So it will be an adjective clause. So third point, it works as an adjective and answers the question what kind, how many, or which one. I have already explained that it is always acting as an adjective. So the man who is wearing a long coat is my father. So we are defining the man, so it will always be the adjective clause. I am sure that you have understood it. And there is a relative clause also. So wherever we are using the words like when, where, or why, wherever we are using an relative adverb like which or something like that, so it will be always the relative clause. Now see, so let's see the exercises now. Exercise D, find out the adjective clause. You have to find out the adjective clause in the sentence and tell which word it modifies. So the first is, I like the persons who are punctual. So what will be the adjective clause here? Who are punctual, because we are using the word who and it is defining what? The persons. So I like the persons, and what kind of persons? The persons who are punctual. So who are punctual is defining the word persons. Second example, God helps those who helps themselves. So here who help themselves is defining whom. God helps those who help themselves. So who help themselves is defining those. The persons who help themselves are helped by God. So God helps themselves. God help whom? Those who help themselves. So who help themselves and those. This is the reason why I bought this puppy. So why I brought this puppy is the adjective, and the reason is the word that it is defining. This is the reason why I brought this puppy. Got it? Now see the next exercise. choose the correct subordinating conjunctions given in the brackets to begin the adverb clauses. See, can you put the ice cream in the refrigerator? Dash, it does not melt. So what we will put here? We will put so that it does not melt. So it is very easy. You just have to put the subordinating conjunctions. Second one also, see, dash, the team played well, it could not win the match. In brackets we have before although, since and because. So dash, the team played well, it could not win the match. Although the team played well, it could not win the match. हालांकि टीम ने अच्छा खेला लेकिन वह जीते नहीं. So although will come here. Similarly you will do the other parts. Now see the exercise F. Fill in the blanks with the correct noun clauses. So this exercise is nothing but use of correct word forms. Harish asked me. There are three kinds of sentences here. What you will write? Harish asked me where my book was. So it is nothing but framing the right words in right place. I don't know how much money he has. So got it? How you will do? Is the cake finished? I don't know how much is left. So got it? How you will do? So now see the exercise G. Say whether the clause in italics is a dependent or independent clause. I have already told you what are dependent and independent clauses. Independent clauses can't act as a sentence alone, whereas dependent clauses act as a sentence on its own. And dependent clauses are dependent upon the rest part of the sentence. See, first one, if you don't work hard, you will not succeed. So the italics, words in italics are you will not succeed. So here we have the subject you and will not succeed. So here succeed the verb. So we have the subject and the verb. So it is the independent clause. Why? Because it can stand alone as a sentence and it doesn't need the first part. You will not succeed. You can say it alone as a sentence, but the first part, if you don't work hard, so it is the dependent because it needs the rest part of the sentence to complete the meaning. So it is the independent clause. The words in italics are independent clause. See the next. Since we have forgotten the wallet, so here we will have to go back home. So the words in italic are since we have forgotten the wallet, we will have to go back home. It is independent, but the first part of the sentence, since we have forgotten the wallet. So what happened? Since you have forgotten the wallet, you can raise this question. So it needs the rest part of the sentence to make a complete thought. So it is the dependent clause. Now see the exercise H. Underline the dependent clauses in these sentences. See, I have done 4 for you. Alice always gets good marks in the exam because she studies hard. So what is the dependent clause in these sentences? You have to underline because she studies hard. So it is the dependent clause because it depends on the next rest part of the sentence. Alice always gets good mark. It is an independent clause. In the exam is a phrase, and because she studies hard. So because she studies hard, what happens if she studies hard? You can ask this question. So this is the dependent clause. Second, see, I had no friends before I met you. So before I met you is a dependent clause because it depends upon the first part of the sentence. Now see the third. I have been waiting for you since 10 o'clock. For you since 10 o'clock. So it has a subject and a verb. For you, you is the subject and the verb since 10 o'clock. So here it depends on the first part of the sentence. I have been waiting. So it depends on this part of the sentence to make a complete thought. Although I was tired, I accompanied him. So although I was tired. So it is the dependent clause because it depends upon the rest of the sentence. So dependent clause always has the subordinating conjunctions and you can see that clearly that here we have the subordinating conjunction since 10 o'clock, and see, although I was tired before I met you. So because, before, since, although, all these are the subordinating conjunctions. So this was your chapter, and one more exercise you have at the last that you will do on your own. You have to find out whether these are phrases or clauses, or dependent clause or independent clause, so that you have to do what kind of words are those, so that you will tick in your book on your own, because that exercise is very easy, and that is about the whole chapter, and I have explained you the chapter. If you have any queries, you can ask me. So thank you so much for watching the video.